Welcome to the Forestnet Media Podcast, your voice for the forestry sector. We're bringing you the stories, insights, and innovations shaping our industry, from cutting-edge equipment and mill technology to leadership journeys and trade developments. We aim to inform, inspire, and connect. In this episode, our CEO and owner, Anthony Robinson, sits down with friend and video content creator Sam Noster. Together, they dive into the story behind Logging and Sawmilling Journal and TimberWest magazine, the current state of the industry, and the role of forestry as a truly sustainable sector. They also trace Anthony's path from forestry professional to publisher and now media company owner, a journey spanning more than 15 years from tree planting and millwork to making the move to Canada over a decade ago. He has become a recognized voice in the industry across North America. Along the way, they touch on entrepreneurship, the impacts of COVID, leadership, and the ever-evolving landscape of marketing and media. Recorded in Anthony's workshop on the beautiful Sunshine Coast of British Columbia, this conversation offers a personal look at his career evolution and the vision behind Forestnet Media. We're using this episode to introduce Anthony and connect more personally with the forestry sector. If you're new here, please like this video and subscribe for more forestry-related content.
Very thankful to be a part of the first podcast that Forestnet Media has, put out, and what a great way to be here late on a Wednesday evening after sitting up in the workshop here, mate. So, Look, let's crack right into it. You're obviously Australian.
Yeah.
Obviously have a funny accent to the North American folks around here. Tell us about your history growing up in Australia, and what brought you to where you are now, and the reasons why the forest world or the forest sector came into your life.
Yeah, it's a funny question. It's a funny history. I grew up in a place called Bunbury in Western Australia, and I've often talked to people about this at conferences and trade shows all across North America. We go to conferences and trade shows every year, lots of them. So I grew up in a forest-dependent community, and from the house I grew up in across the way, you could see a huge big pile of wood chips, right? And when I was a kid, I'd look across at that huge big pile of wood chips, and it was eucalyptus trees and pine trees that were being cut down, chipped up, and shipped across the world to make paper products. And it wasn't until I got involved in forestry that I realized that even though I'm halfway across the world, I grew up in this community that was so dependent on forestry and forest products. We had a mill down the road. We had a huge pile of wood chips across the harbour from where I grew up. And every day I looked at that, and people worked in the forestry sector. And I grew up in a place called Bunbury in Western Australia. When I was 18, I moved 2 hours north to Perth to study environmental science. And I was always interested in the environment, interested in conservation, interested in renewable resources, and I studied at the University of Western Australia for four or 5 years, had a great time doing that, and then worked a couple of jobs after university, and then when I was 26 or 27, I moved to Canada with the great idea that I would be in Canada for a couple of years. My idea was that I would study at the University of British Columbia, and I completed my master's there. And that was 14 years ago. So I've been in Vancouver, British Columbia, now on the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia now we've been here for 4 years. Didn't think, that's the quick story, but there's more to dive in. I never ever imagined I'd ever be sitting here with a friend doing a podcast or talking about media. I thought I would be a forestry consultant, a registered professional forester, working in the industry, doing the hands-on work that so many people do. But I've been fortunate enough to have a role that's aligned with the industry, but it's more of a media role, more of a promotional role, and that's definitely been an interesting journey. So yeah.
So now currently you are the owner of Forestnet Media, although this whole media concept with your business now is expanded to what it was previously. Tell us a bit about the history of the company and the magazines that you own, and up to you acquiring the company yourself.
Yeah, so I finished studying at UBC and I started working at the UBC Research Forest in Malcolm Knapp Research Forest, which is in Maple Ridge, about an hour from Vancouver. And I got working for my boss at the time, Paul Lawson, who is also an incredible mentor to me. And Paul said to me, "Hey Anthony, we've got this project coming in a couple of years." This was in 2014. He said, "We got this project coming in a couple of years, and I think you can help us with it." And I said, "Well, that sounds great. Like, what is it?" And he said, "Well, we've got this event coming, and it's called Demo International, and there's a whole bunch of people coming to the forest where we are, and the forest is hosting 6, 7, 8,000 people over 3 days." And I said, "Well, that sounds kind of crazy, like kind of fun. Let's get involved in it." So throughout that period, I got involved and I started doing more and more planning, safety, pre-harvesting, GIS work, and I was fortunate enough to be at the Research Forest, which has been an incredible place for a lot of forestry students, a lot of forestry education, a lot of industry people have been to the Malcolm Knapp Research Forest and the associated forest, which is in Williams Lake, called the Alex Fraser Research Forest. So I was lucky enough to be there for I think over 3 years, and was involved in this large scale project. And kind of at the end of the project, I got approached by the previous owner of Forestnet, which was a guy by the name of Rob Stanhope. So he said to me, "Why don't you come work for me?" And I said, "Well, I don't know the first thing about magazines and media." And after a few meetings and after a few negotiations, we came to the start of me working for him, which was in January 2017. And Rob wanted to retire. I was 31, 32 years old, young, ambitious. And he said he wanted to sell the company, and I said, "Well, I don't know the first thing about how to acquire a company or buy a company. All the people working there are much, much older than me." At the time, it seemed quite daunting, but we spent a couple of years negotiating, figuring it out, finding funding, and in 2019, I acquired the company from Rob. And it's been over 6 years now of me owning the company and now running the company as a family-owned business, and it's been quite the journey. So yeah.
So when you took it over in 2019, how much different is the company now to what it was then? And if it has changed, which it obviously has, tell us how.
Yeah, so the company has a long history. We have two industry-leading publications. We have the Logging and Sawmilling Journal, which is a national forestry magazine, covers all across Canada. We have TimberWest magazine, which is a Western United States magazine, which covers the Western US. And I bought the company, like I said, in 2019. So about 6 months before the pandemic, right? By the end of the year that I had even before the first year of my ownership, we had this thing called COVID, which was very disruptive. And so the most obvious change was that we changed locations. We used to have an office in North Vancouver, and then everyone started working from home. And it was a fairly big change for us, but fairly achievable. We started changed a few processes, we were able to move from Vancouver to where we currently live and still operate the business from home. We changed some protocol with our printing company, with our graphic designer, with our sales staff. And, you know, from when I acquired it in 2019 to now, 2025, it has changed a lot, and we've adapted to this vastly different market where our clients, our customers, the manufacturers, the service providers to the industry, they have a lot more options in terms of reaching their audience. So print magazines were a really dominant way, or really a prevalent way of reaching loggers or foresters or people that work in mills and manufacturing facilities, especially during, you know, the years of, you know, leading up to 2018 sort of thing. Very, very dominant. And now we've seen quite a big shift to digital options, and we've seen marketing budgets come down during times of recession, during COVID, during the latest fluctuations in the market. So the business that we are operating today is vastly different from what it was 6 years ago. But those differences and those changes, I think, offer us two options. One is to stay and kind of do what we've done. One is to do the same and kind of grind yourself into the ground and like many other print magazines, likely shut the doors. And the other is to adapt and be flexible and create change and do things like this, right? And actually show value to our customers of how we can adapt, how we can change. And that's I think we're doing a good job of it. I think we still have a long way to go, but it's definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously, you know, not just the forest sector as a whole, but, you know, most industries have changed so much in the last few years, and it's, you know, obvious that a lot more social online presence with companies is the way forward. And, you know, I don't remember the last time, apart from reading the Logging and Sawmilling Journal, that when I read a magazine, you know. Yeah. So it's interesting how that's going to change, and it will continue to change, right? So look, going back to, you know, I dare say it, it's a talking point that most people don't want to talk about, but you mentioned COVID, so it's worth mentioning that time and period. Obviously, you know, when you acquired the business 2019 and then COVID just hit, you would, you know, probably pretty excited, pretty nervous, pretty anxious going into acquiring and starting this business to how you know, foresee it and wanted it to go, and then COVID hits. What were some challenges during that time? Yeah,
I mean, the obvious one for us was connecting with people. We go to 10, 12 plus trade shows a year, and we talk face to face with people, we shake hands, we get to know our customers on a personal level. And as soon as COVID hit, we were no longer able to do that. Many people lost their job. We had to restructure our staff internally. We had to let some people go. We stopped that face-to-face normal ability to connect with people. But at the same time, the forest industry was going through a boom because the price of lumber was crazy high. So the mills and manufacturing facilities were doing so well. The dealers and manufacturers were selling so much equipment that they said to us, well, we don't need to advertise with you if we're selling it. If we have a waiting list of 6 months or a year, why would we bother? So it was kind of this like weird curveball that was thrown at our business under new ownership, with myself not having the experience or the time as a leader and as the owner of the business to know really what to do. So we lent on those people. I tried to lean on those people within the business that had seen the cycle, the ups and downs of the economy. I tried to ask for advice. I did what I thought was necessary, and you know, one thing that I've learnt being a leader is that you have to make a decision, and during COVID I had to make some pretty tough decisions, but I made decisions, and whether they were right or wrong, I stuck by them. So that was a learning thing for me. Yeah,
not easy time for many people, especially in leadership roles, with the amount of redundancies made, so to speak. And apart from the challenges during that time, once COVID kind of started to trend out, and things started getting back to normal, what was happening in Forestnet Media and within the publications, which got you back on an upward scale to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think over the last 3 or 4 years that the things that I've really tried to focus on is showing value to our client base across a number of different platforms. So the word that I use all the time is being flexible and diversity. So having diverse platforms, including print, including video content, which you've been helping us with now for a long time, making those investments in people, making those investments in myself in terms of getting coaching or mentorship, or biting the bullet and getting someone to come and do video content, or biting the bullet and hiring a new sales manager so I can do more of what I should be doing. It's hard to know when to make the move. It's also very lonely as a leader, as a CEO. You don't have someone telling you what to do. My parents are absolutely lovely people. They're school teachers. They don't have an entrepreneurial bone in their body. So I can't necessarily ring my dad or my mum and say, hey, what do you think I should do in this case? Or having entrepreneurial, an entrepreneurial mind, and having someone to help you, a mentor or another person you can lean on, is very, very important. So I think I'm getting away from the question there, but
it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
I mean, it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think, having, no matter who you are, the ability to talk to someone is very important. And I think we all know that having someone that can relate to the things that we're going through, or has had similar experiences to what we are currently going through, is really important. So I totally understand what you're on there. Yeah. Now let's just dive into the industry as a whole, and the forest sector, obviously a worldwide thing, but being here in Canada and especially British Columbia, it's very major industry. Tell us, what sets the Canadian forest sector apart from other regions?
I mean, especially where we live in British Columbia, there is an unlimited amount of forested lands in British Columbia, a huge amount. And the Canadian forestry sector is a world leader. It has been managed incredibly well. There are challenges that the Canadian forestry sector face, like climate change and more frequent wildfire events. Public opinion is another challenge that the forestry sector faces. Compared to places like Europe and Australia and New Zealand, the Canadian forestry sector manages their forest differently. It's managed for biodiversity, it's managed for multiple species, it's managed for using different planting techniques, and in some cases different harvesting techniques, but if you look at a forest in Germany versus a forest in British Columbia, the German forest will be a monoculture, so one species of trees versus multiple species of trees in British Columbia. The two are often compared, but in British Columbia, the values of biodiversity, of habitat for animals, of riparian zones, of salmon spawning habitats, of First Nations values and culture, as well as recreation, all of that's taken into account when an area is harvested. Social impacts, watershed analysis. In other parts of the world, it's very much managed differently, much less stringently, and I believe that Canada is as a world leader in forest management. That's exactly why I came to Canada to study forestry. Well, I mean, not only is it a leader in forest management, it's a beautiful place to live. So, and particularly, not just Canada, the Pacific Northwest, Washington and Oregon and Idaho, Montana and California. I mean, they're all exceptionally good places to grow trees. Lots of water, enough sunlight to grow big trees in a relatively short period of time. And the quality of the lumber that comes out of the Pacific Northwest is incredible, and a great place to live as well. So, I mean, that's why I've been here for so long. I've fallen in love with the place, married a Canadian girl, started a family here, own a business. So yeah, it's kind of home now, and a beautiful place to be. Yeah.
Okay, so forestry sector, last 2 decades.
Yeah.
What changes has there been?
I mean, yeah, multiple changes. If you're talking on a management level, it's become much more stringent, much more closely managed on an environmental, on a conservation level. If you're talking about on a technology side, in mills, in the woods and logging operations, we're seeing remote operated skidders and yarders being operated remotely. We're seeing steep slope winch assist technology being a huge changer, a huge improvement in safety and in soil erosion techniques, or soil erosion mitigation, I should say. That just on the logging side, we're seeing less people on the ground cutting trees with chainsaws, so we're actually seeing more mechanized harvesting. We're seeing machines planting trees now, so less need for tree planters. On the milling side, the technology is even more insane because it's in a more controlled environment. In a mill site, obviously it's an enclosed environment where things can be managed differently. We're seeing faster mills that produce more wood quicker. We're seeing crazy kiln technology, planing technology, AI technology that's come into a lot of places, as well as grading and scanning and optimization technology that's far beyond my brain power to try and explain to you, because a lot of it I simply don't understand the software development and the computer power behind a lot of the stuff that's done. We'd have to talk to an engineer or something about that, a computer engineer. But basically what I can say is that over the last 20 years that there is more. The industry has become vastly more sustainable. We're able to produce more lumber from smaller trees. We're able to produce less waste, or use that waste in different ways for pellet products or other particle board, MDF products. And in the woods, operations have become a lot safer and more mechanized and vastly more efficient. Yeah.
Is there any one of those things within the things that you've just said that stand out to be the biggest change, or the thing that you see as wow, this is somewhere completely new, and the forestry sector is going to be completely changed as a result? Have you seen anything?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that I come from a background of being in the woods, working on laying out cut blocks and harvesting and planting trees. I didn't talk to you about that in the background, but when I was in Australia, before I moved to Canada, I planted trees and worked at a mill. And something that stuck with me when I was working at the mill in Australia was every Christmas break, the mill would shut down for 2 weeks, which was good for us because we got 2 weeks off. But the reason it shut down is for upgrades, right? So every year or every 6 months, the mill would shut down, and all the guys got a couple weeks off. But while the shutdown was happening, they were installing a new grader, they were installing a new optimization system, they're installing a new kiln, they're installing all this new packaging and packing systems and all this stuff without fail every 6 months, right? So when I was at university at the time, and I would come back from university and work at the mill, and every time there'd be something new, something different, right? And so the advancement of technology within that environment was very, very rapid, and that was in 2000 and I can't even remember, 2006 or 2007. The advancement of technology was so rapid then that it really caught my eye, and it wasn't until 2010 or 2011 that I moved to Canada, and then I started working as a forester, and then I started going into sites where there was advancement in the technology in the woods. There was a new yarder advancement, there was steep slope winch assist came out. When I started working in Maple Ridge was right around 2014, and right around that time all this steep slope winch assist technology had come out, and that was just incredible because some of the hills you could barely even walk up and down, just in your hiking boots. Like, they were really steep, and all of a sudden we're dropping big fella bunches and directional fellas off these slopes, which was vastly new technology to anyone in the industry. And it came from New Zealand, where you grew up. The technology mostly came out of New Zealand, and it improved safety in New Zealand vastly and saved a lot of lives and improved erosion and handling of logs, and was a huge thing for the industry. Yeah, I do know that, coming from New Zealand, as you said, and 25 years I was there, or however long I was there before I moved here. They're very big on health and safety regulations, right? Very big. So it doesn't surprise me why they were maybe the first implementers of some A-grade regulations on that front. Let's tie back to the Forestnet Media perspective. Obviously, with the publications, there's continuous news articles and getting companies in the sector to be seen. Tell us a bit about what you guys do within the publications and outside of the publications to help the forestry sector expand, grow, and pass on the knowledge of it to the readers and the viewers worldwide. Yeah, so I mean, our magazines have been around. TimberWest celebrating its 50-year anniversary this year. We've been a voice of the industry, and for 50 years in the Western United States. So we share stories about new technology implementation. We share stories about families, what they're doing in the industry, how they're managing their forests differently for wildlife habitat or fire mitigation or riparian management zones. So our magazines and our business is about being a voice for the industry. We are recognized as one of the leaders that do that, and we're proud to be recognized that way. as far as getting that message across, we're getting that message across to people that know that message and are advocates for the industry already. And I think one of the challenges for anyone that is in the industry is to think about who is receiving that message. We're giving the message of forestry to vastly people that already understand the message. So the challenge for most people in this industry today is to get that message across to people that live in the Lower Mainland in British Columbia, or people that live in Seattle or Portland or Los Angeles, and get that message that the forest industry is sustainable, it's very well managed, and it's an industry that we all need. We all use forest products every single day. Every time we go to the bathroom, we use a forest product, a paper product. Every time we write on a piece of paper, it's all a part. Paper products, wood products are a part of our lives every day, and it's challenging for companies like us to connect with the general public. And I think that that's something that we all need to be conscious of, and that we all need to make an effort to spread the message that forestry is a sustainable industry. It's the only sustainable industry, or one of the only sustainable industries in the world where you can cut down and regrow the same product within a relatively short period of time, whilst managing the forest for environmental values, indigenous values, recreational values, and social values. So that's kind of what drew me to the forestry sector. Is we all need resources. We all need iron ore to make metal, to make metal products and cars, and aluminium, or aluminum in North America, most people say. But we all need aluminium or other products. We all use resources every single day. But the forestry sector is a truly sustainable industry, and not enough people in the public view the industry that way. They think that we're all just cutting down trees and ruining the world, but that is absolutely not the forestry sector's intention at all.
You briefly touched on values. Tell us a bit more about the values that Forestnet Media have, and how you guys integrate values within your company and correlate it with the values of the forestry sector as a whole.
Well, I mean, it depends how you look at our business. I think one of the things that I value as a leader, or as as the leader of the business, is transparency. Is being transparent with my staff and my clients. Sometimes I think I'm too transparent with my clients, but value is a really important thing to me. And if a manufacturer or a customer or a service provider sees value in what we do, then that's great. And we encourage them to go to our website and check out what we do. And if they don't see value in what we do, then that's fine also. We are an integral part of the industry. We've been an integral part of the industry for over 50 years. There's many other great magazines and media companies out there. I believe that Forestnet Media is one of the leading publications and media companies in the forestry sector in North America. And I encourage people to see what they value about our business and how we can help them, because we are offering probably the most diverse options of any media company in the forestry sector in North America.
What are the visions of the company going forward, short term and long term? Where do you see Forestnet Media going?
Yeah, in the last few years since buying the business, there was a point at the start of my ownership of the business of kind of survival, and I think that we're beyond that period of surviving. And I think that some of the changes that we have made in the last year and maybe beyond that have been a lot more video content. We've been really pushing that hard with your help, Sam, and I think that offering video content, offering social media management, offering website design, different digital options, as well as maintaining our core readership, which is our industry-leading publications. Our readers still love our magazines. They come past us at conferences and they say, "Hey, I've been getting TimberWest for 30 years. I love that magazine." And they come past and they shake our hands and say, "Hey, I love that. Can you keep sending it to me?" But then equally, we get people that say, "Oh, I get your newsletter and I love your digital version of the magazine. Oh, I saw that video that you did." So, the future of our magazine is just to continue to evolve and to continue to be flexible, and to continue to show value to our clients and our customers, and be transparent with everybody about the changes, and just enjoy what we do, because we really do enjoy our jobs and our lifestyle and what we get to do. It's a privilege to work for yourself and to work from home and to raise a family, and that's it's a really
And from what I have seen in the conferences that I've been to with you, I've been to a handful currently. I can see that there's such good community and there's such good people within the industry. And it's kind of like one big family in a way, and it seems very special. So I definitely see why you can get such benefit and joy from it. Essentially, what are some other things that you feel have given you joy? Has there been an achievement or anything within your career that's given you the joy or the satisfaction that you just know that what you're doing right now is the right thing that you should be doing?
Yeah, I think that it's hard, and it has been hard for me to know what the next move is, and to predict the future, predict what's going to happen, and the things that have given me a lot of confidence is making a decision. And whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision, sticking by that decision, and when that decision works out, when you hire someone new and they come on board and people say, "Oh, great job," or when you decide to sacrifice spending money on this and spend money on that, and it works out well, those making good decisions is a really positive thing, and reinforces. Sometimes it can take months and months for it to be acknowledged as the right decision. But when you do make the right decision as a leader, it's great. Yeah, you feel like you've actually achieved something, and you get positive feedback from your customers, from your staff, and the other thing that brings me great satisfaction is. Again, looking back to the start of my ownership of the business, is to say that I survived COVID. To get through that few year period where it was like, we often say, well, if we can get through that, then we can get through anything. So that was very satisfying as a very new business owner. I'd owned. Forestnet for 6 months before COVID hit, and it was a pretty rude awakening to the reality of owning a business, of what it actually means, and I think that at the time I didn't, I thought that I was just gonna get this business and make a bunch of money, and that it was going to be up and up and up, and the sky was the limit, and then it couldn't be further from the truth, right?
Oh, sometimes being naive is a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah.
especially through the pandemic of COVID.
Oh yeah, I think I saw in one of your questions earlier today, you were like, did you ever think of quitting, or and I'm just like, oh yeah.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Now looking forward, obviously, there's been a lot of change, not just in your business, but the industry itself. You've implemented new media services within Forestnet, additional to the publications. You've obviously added video content. We've created the YouTube channel, and we've been a lot more active online as a result on multiple platforms. Tell us a bit about why you integrated those things into the business, and the benefit of bringing those in for not just companies that maybe want to do advertising with you, but also just the viewers or people who are interested in learning more about the industry itself.
Yeah, I think that having an integrated business and a diverse revenue streams, diverse platforms that you can offer people, gives everybody, the customer, the manufacturer, the service provider, it gives them more options in terms of budget, in terms of reach, in terms of digital versus print, in terms of video or social media or podcasts, or so the customer has more options, but also the audience has more options. So I've had people speak to me that have subscribed to our magazine in print for 20 years, and they don't want to get it in print anymore. They want to get it in a digital version. So there's an obvious age change in our industry. There's a lot of people that are retiring, that will retire in the next 10 years, and with that, or have already retired, with that change in demographics, typically men, typically above 55, that are retiring, that liked getting a print magazine. We're seeing a lot of those people move out, and with that change in audience, the change in what they can be offered needs to happen, and the publications and the media companies that are making that change will, in my eyes, will do well, and there will be many that don't make that change or are too late that won't do well, and we don't want to be one of those. So yeah.
If you were to give advice to someone wanting to be a part of the forestry sector today, whether it's within something along the lines of what Forestnet Media does, or just someone that wants to, be out in the woods, what advice would you give to someone?
Well, I would advise them that it's a very rewarding industry. You get to travel, you get to see different sectors, whether it's working as a registered professional forester, planning blocks, working as a biologist or a conservationist in planning harvesting in the blocks, or working as a computer scientist or an engineer developing a state-of-the-art mill, or a remote operated skidder. There's so many different facets to the industry. Some of the technology being used in the industry is absolutely crazy. We've been talking with customers using different robotic technology now, different AI integration in mills and manufacturing facilities. And if someone wanted to get into the sector, depending on their background or their skill set, maybe they like working in the woods, or maybe they like working behind a desk as a computer technologist or as an engineer, or one of those. I would say that it's an industry that I really think, we've only just scratched the surface of what the forestry sector can do globally, and the demand for for paper wood products is not going away anytime soon, and that it's a great place to be, and that there's a huge amount of career advancement available to someone that is keen and eager to get involved in the industry.
Just to summarize, to finalize our chat today, I know how much forestry means to you, but I'm going to ask you that question for the viewers' sakes. What does forestry mean to you?
To me, as a short answer, it's a truly sustainable resource, and it's managed in a way in Canada and in the US and in Scandinavia and in Australia and New Zealand. It's managed in a way in those countries where it really is truly a sustainable resource that will be around as long as we're all around, right? And it's not going to run out. And as a global industry, there are places that can manage it better. There's continual improvement in the sector in places, including in the places that are already well developed. But in a simple terms, forestry to me is a truly sustainable resource.
You mentioned about certain places being more developed. What are some of those countries, and the opposite? What are some countries that aren't developed in that front?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of recently, a lot of conferences, trade shows I've been to in the last year. Been a lot of comparison between Canada and Scandinavia, Switzerland, Finland, Germany, and a lot about talking about that Germany produces 3 times the amount of wood that Canada produces in half the size or something like that. So I would say, based on values of biodiversity and lumber production and that those places in Scandinavia are very, very advanced. The mill technology is crazy. They have a lot of really, really smart people there that are doing really cool stuff. And on the opposite scale of that, there's places like Indonesia or some places in Africa that could do with some really serious government implementation of more conservative or more conservation-based approaches to forestry. And still a lot of illegal harvesting of tropical hardwoods in South America, in the Amazon. So yeah, I mean, those are obvious areas to me. I've traveled through Indonesia quite a lot when I was in my younger years, and you can see firsthand the damage that has happened in some places, and we can't be unaware of that. Yeah.
I suppose we're therefore very fortunate to be in Canada and British Columbia, where it's a very prevalent industry and it's thriving, so to speak.
There's a lot of people that wouldn't agree with what you said, but there's a lot of people in the industry that know the lengths at which we as an industry need to go to harvest a single tree, that know that every person that signs off on a harvest area has to be a registered professional forester or registered forestry technologist in British Columbia or Alberta or anywhere in Canada, have to do training at university, has to pass a very stringent test, and that's just one person in the wheel. You've got to pass all of these gates before you ever harvest a tree. First Nations consultation, social recreational values, biologists, salmon riparian zones, harvesting constraints before a tree is ever cut in British Columbia or Alberta or anywhere in Canada. So while some people don't understand those steps in the process, most people that are in the industry do understand that it really is a stringent process, and it's managed incredibly well for the values that are seen as important values.
Last question, my friend. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice for the day that you owned Forestnet or acquired Forestnet, what would it be?
Don't do it. No, no. I don't know. I think that every challenge and every this is a cliche answer, but every challenge and every step of the way, you know, is a learning experience, and every mistake, every win is a learning experience. So maybe I would tell myself, like, curb your enthusiasm. You know, maybe calm down a little bit before you make a few, like, you know, rash decisions in the first year, or you spend too much money on this or that, but you know, I think that along the way I've really tried to learn as much as possible from every win and every mistake, and that it's been an enjoyable process, and one that never ends, right? I'm still going to make a whole bunch of mistakes, and I'm still going to have some wins, hopefully, and in 5 years from now we'll be in a different place to where we are. Yeah.
Awesome, Anthony. Well, look, really appreciate your time tonight, my friend. And hey, look, thank you for everyone who has viewed our first podcast with Forestnet Media. If you haven't subscribed to our channels, our YouTube channel especially, please do that. You'll keep updated with all the current news within the forestry sector. But thank you very much once again, my friend. And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.